back with the House of Cards podcast, the show where we break down the art of creative real estate investing. Join us as we dive into the world of real estate with insider tips and tricks for making your investments go further. From buying with no money down to flipping properties for profit, we've got you covered. Plus, stay tuned for expert guest speakers who will share their knowledge and experience in this ever-changing market. So grab a seat and get ready to learn the secrets to success in real estate investing. And now, from Alaska to New York, your hosts, Chris James and Jesse Stanton.
Yo, good morning. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Saturday morning in Alaska. So good morning, or I guess afternoon or evening, wherever you guys are in the world watching your House of Cards podcast. Appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you very much. Chris, how you doing today, bro? What are you up to?
I'm actually doing very well. I actually had an amazing morning.
You look very well. You got a fucking glow about you, bro.
I appreciate it. And then I happened to hop on this, and now the internet is messing up. So technology, man, it's pretty crazy. And I think right after this, I need to probably go to Best Buy and just upgrade my computer, the whole system, and just get everything brand new because it's been a couple of years. But sorry, I just want to apologize in advance, guys, on the lag or delay on my end. So I just want to throw that out there premature.
Chris is using Alaska technology today, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Angel Miller, great to see you in here. She's amazing. So I could say so many things about Angel. I just don't know where to start. But Angel, I just want to say thank you for just being the support and the backbone and everything that we got going on in the business. Jesse and I, we talk about you on a daily basis in a positive manner. You're amazing soul. We appreciate you more than you even know. So just say, well, thank you. Hey, Amanda, good afternoon. Those who don't know, Alaska time, they're 4 hours behind us. So I'm in the Eastern Standard Time. It's currently 1:49 Eastern Standard Time. If you're in Alaska, that's 4 hours behind.
It is 9:50 a.m. here. We are still in the a.m.
That is correct. But no, absolutely. Thank you all for being here again. Sorry for the inconvenience. Sorry for the delay on my end. If you are watching, we are streaming live from YouTube and Facebook, and also on our private, not mentorship group, but a private Facebook group, I should say. It's called the House of Cards and Chris James and Jesse Stanton. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify. We also on iHeartRadio, Google Play, Amazon Music, and so much more. So don't forget about that. How was your morning going? I know you got that entire army over there.
Fantastical, man. I have to start out at 3 a.m. just so I get some me time away from the 50 other people that live under my roof. So yeah, no, it went great, man. Today's been a great day, a great start to the day so far. Went and did some reading. Just got my mindset right. I actually fell asleep. I love doing this new thing. I'm a big Steve Harvey fan, man. I've been watching more and more of his stuff. I've read a couple of his books. Love Steve Harvey. And I ended up falling asleep to some of his material last night.
He's got great material. Very good material, from motivation to how he actually, I didn't know he used to stutter. And how he actually overcame that. You would never know now, just the way he communicates, articulates himself. You would never know. He's a phenomenal individual. And 100%. Yeah, man, definitely a great inspiration of mine. Definitely Justin Birch. Good to see you, man.
There he is. What's up?
Good to see you. And guys, I'm seeing in the comments, we want to know who we're speaking to, how we can connect, and squad up in the comments. Please give StreamYard, we're streaming from StreamYard, access to have your name visible so we can see it. Because it's going to continue to say Facebook user. We want to know whom we're speaking to so we can connect the dots and put you guys in the right direction, and or just be a resource.
100%. And just to reiterate, guys, I see a couple new people here in the comments, man. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Chris and mine's podcast, it is the House of Cards for a reason. Now, Chris very, very brilliantly came up with this name. I'm going to reiterate it real quick for everybody who this is your first time visiting or you're not familiar with the podcast. So real estate, in short, real estate, you never know what kind of hand you're going to get dealt. Whether you're doing fix and flips, whether you're doing wholesaling, whether you're dealing with new people, new relationships, new TCs. By the way, if you guys need a phenomenal TC, make sure you reach out to Angel Miller. She is second to none. So when you're dealing with real estate, regardless of in what faucet it is, you never know what hand you're going to get dealt. And so we put this podcast together so you can stack your hand, so to speak. You can come in here, you can stack your deck. So whatever thing you're getting thrown, during the week, whatever obstacle, whatever thing comes out of the blue, out of left field, you're prepared for that. We want to go into this with our deck stacked because you never know, again, what hand you're going to get dealt. So, Chris, maybe we ought to relocate to Vegas, and this will kind of blow up a little bit more, man.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Is it going to be like the Wolf of Wall Street or something? Man, they used to be very mild-mannered young men. You have no idea what you're missing on their podcast now. But anyway, so. Just to kind of preface real quick, again, for those of you guys who are new, that's the entire intent of this podcast. For you guys to be able to come on here and not only hopefully get some good information, but we want to see you guys squatting up in the comments. We want to see you guys active in the comments. We want to see you guys being able to leverage this Facebook group. If there's something that you guys need right now that's keeping you from hitting that next milestone or that next step, then post it in the comments. Let us know what you guys need. If there's one thing... one of the best pieces of advice I ever got in my business was, and here's a big issue that most people have, is when they're trying to scale their business, when they're trying to grow it, they're under the mindset of, you know what, I've got to do everything by myself, or I've got to figure out how to do this. I don't know how to lead gen. So now I've got to figure out, how do I get more leads? I don't know how to close creative deals. I don't know how to pitch creative. I don't know how to talk to agents. So now I've got to figure out, how do I do all this stuff? I don't know how to dispo. So now I've got to be the one to go out and call and build relationships with all these buyers. If you guys can resonate with that, then I'm going to give you the same piece of advice that was given to me a couple years ago, and it really revolutionized my life and my business and my partnership with Chris, and has allowed us just to do some really unconceivable things, in my humble opinion. And this will be our biggest month ever.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this.
Excited for it, dude. Like you hit these, you go through the trenches, man. And this is entrepreneurship. And you go through the trenches, and then it's interesting because when you're going through it, it's kind of like looking back at certain times in your life, man. Maybe like for me, I look back at there's certain times when I was in high school, as an example, and I'm like, man, the good old days. But looking back, you don't realize you're in the good old days when you're going through them. It takes for you to be able to look back at that. And this is definitely one of those things. As I've grown more with my intention in regard to my personal development, to my mindset, I'm very, very cognizant and aware of what I'm doing in the moment, and living in the moment, and understanding exactly what's going on, so that I can recognize that when I am in those good times, and I can be present in it. And this is one of those things right now for Chris and I, where we are in our business and the things that we're involved with, the things that we're doing, where I can look at it and say, in the present moments, we're going to look back at this and think, man, that was dope. That was really cool. That was a great time in our life. That was a great time in our business. That was a great time in our partnership and our brotherhood and our friendship. And it was just at an all-time high. And I hope we continue. Not even I know that we're going to continue just doing this thing, but this is what entrepreneurship looks like. But in reality, as long as you don't quit, as long as you're in that right mindset and you're being intentional with being 1% better every day, really, it looks like this. It continues going up, and you have those ups and downs. But as long as you just don't quit, that's the thing, man. You just have to not freaking quit, and you'll continue going up. Quitting is the only way that you freaking fail. And so to bring this all back, that's the entire intent of this podcast, you guys. So if there's anything that you guys are needing, that you are lacking in your business, in your relationships, in your personal life, throw it in the comments. Let us put you guys up here. Let us, help you guys, leverage this podcast and the people that are here and that are watching this, so that you guys can connect. You guys can be, 1% better than you were yesterday. If there's any one thing that you're needing in your business, the question is not, how do I go do this? The question is, oh my gosh, who is already doing this? And who do I need to go connect with? And once you start understanding that principle and that concept, and you start applying it on a much higher level, you start learning more about yourself, what your strengths are, and where you can lead with value, and how to build relationships on a very high level, you'll start to see your business just soar. And so it's absolutely amazing. And I'm Chris, I'm very grateful and humbled at the opportunity, man, to be here with you, to be doing this podcast with you, to be business partners with you, and be involved with everything that we have going on, man. It's truly an exciting time in my life, man.
I appreciate that, man. The feeling is definitely mutual. Definitely
Thank
mutual.
you, brother.
And Amanda, emotional roller coaster. I think it's more so emotional, physical, everything roller coaster. In real estate, due to the fact of, again, we talked about on the last episode about everything we're going through on a specific property, right? And that takes a lot, right? That really takes a lot out of you. It really takes a lot. When I say from emotions to, what to do next, is this the right fit for me? Do you think I'm ever fit to do this? It's just a lot of different things you look at. And it's definitely a growing curve for me personally, because initially I never been through that, right? I never been through some of those obstacles, and those obstacles helped me be a better person. And more so, I'm glad, Jesse, I was going through it with you, because to lean on someone like, okay, what's the next steps? How should we do this? How should we do that? Okay, this happened. And a lot of people transparently would have gave up. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to be very vulnerable here. A lot of people would have gave up.
There were people that were involved in some of the things that we were doing that did give up.
100%. 100%. 100%. And we made it. We made it.
We did. Not only did we make it out on the other side, I feel like even just with this one deal alone that we kind of left off on a cliffhanger last week. I remember kind of talking about it, and then I was like, all right, you know what? Let's finish part 2 the next week. And so everybody in the comments is like, oh man, you left me on a cliffhanger. Like, what's going on with this deal? Chris, you want to kind of catch everybody up to give everybody some context as to what we talked about? We didn't go live last week, but the week prior, kind of the specifics of that deal, and let's finish it out, man.
Yeah. So to catch everyone up to speed, so we took over a fix and flip. Just to back it up just a little bit, this is more so someone who was in a pre-foreclosure state. He, at the time, we had a wholesaler who brought us a deal. So let me just let you know, this is in Alaska. This property was in Alaska, and good old Alaska. A lot of people don't think you can invest there. You can. You definitely can.
Properties on Mars, bro.
So we bought this property from a wholesaler over in Alaska. There was a lot of different things that happened in the beginning. There was a loan modification that was completed. This property was self-performed. For those who don't know, it was more.
Now, what does self-perform mean for those who don't even know what that means?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So self-perform, and traditionally, when buying a property, a lot of people know you go through a title company. You go through either a title company, escrow company, and or attorney, right? But in this case, this property didn't go through none of that, right? And a lot of people like, why you didn't probably go through a title company? It'd been a lot easier. The reason because this is a creative finance deal, and this is subject to the existing mortgage. And an FHA, this was actually an FHA loan, and a lot of FHA loans and the VA loan doesn't get title insurance, right? So essentially, when you do a self-performance, you can technically close the next day. If you get all the documents back and get it all notarized, all parties, bring everything back to you, send it to the right, correspondence, you can close. Versus a title company, a lot of title companies won't touch VA loans or specifically FHA loans due to the underwriting that's in that specific loan.
Now, with regard to a creative deal, right? In the context of a creative deal.
Absolutely. And more so when it comes to like not seller finance, but subject to the existing mortgage. It's becoming more common in all 50 states, where a lot of title companies are not touching it because there are some risk factors. But as real estate investors, there's going to be risks. And if you don't think there's not going to be risk, I don't think real estate is for you. just being transparent and throwing that out there. So this specific asset, more so, Jesse and I, we acquired it. That we actually did a subtel. So essentially, we took it over the existing mortgage as a subject to transaction, and then we was going to take it to the market after we did a fix. Well, basically renovations to the property and all that good stuff. This is supposed to be a 2 to 3 month project. 2 to 3 month project, most, right? And lasted about a year. A little bit over a year, actually. And because we had a lot of hiccups that came, or obstacles, as some may say, unfortunately, the seller died during the process. Unfortunately, we went through not 1, 2, 3, but almost 4 different title companies when we tried to list the property. And Jesse, you can jump in whenever if I'm missing anything, but more so, the seller died. That was a big thing. So during the process of the seller dying, we found that the notary that was on file, her books got robbed. So she had no books to even back up the notary documents that was done in the self-perform or anything like that. So we got a seller who's dead. And guys, we're not being disrespectful. Just we understand that things happen, but just the seller died, unfortunately.
Now we didn't know all this until we went to list the property, guys. So we took the property, renovated it. We touched on this last week. Went through multiple contractors.
Yep.
Went through a couple different title companies to try to sell this thing on the market. Now, I mean, we had a buyer within, I think, like 48 hours. I mean, it was crazy. It went under contract very, very quick. And this is in the middle of winter in Alaska, no less.
No, 100%. And that was the bright side about it, because it was supposed to be a slam dunk. It was supposed to be a slam dunk, 6-figure deal, easy, easy. And more so, as Jesse mentioned, we had a seller who died. We had a notary documents that were missing because it was robbed, and that was legitimate. She had a police report and everything. We had a contractor who did a piss poor job. Let's just be honest. And we had to hire another contractor who actually had to come in and redo the work that was initially done.
Now, so the contractor that we hired, guys, had like 4.8 stars or 4.9 stars or something like that. So just make sure that you guys know that somebody who has 4.8 or 4.9 stars does not qualify as a credible contractor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He was a smooth talker. Just throw that out there. He was a smooth talker. So as we get this property listed on the market the first time, we had, as Jesse said, we had a buyer within 48 hours. We had appraisal out there, it appraised, ready to move forward. The title company was ready to move forward, get all the documents in place. But
now we have title commitments and everything too, correct?
Yeah, we had title commitment. We have documents in place. But then it got to a point where the title company, let's give you a little backstory. The title company in Alaska, just Alaska in general, Jesse can tell you this, they're behind the times. They're literally behind the times, if I'm not mistaken. They just had the authorization to do notarizations literally last August. They just started doing that. Everything was more so in person, wasn't really virtual. So they're kind of behind the times. So the title companies are starting to get familiar with creative finance, and it's more so with our teams, more so myself, Jesse, and our team. We like to help title companies and guide them in that creative finance world if they're open-minded. Even Jesse took the time out of him, and actually a couple others went to the actual title company to inform them how subject to works, creative finance, and what that looks like. And truthfully, sometimes if they wasn't open, right? They if someone's closed-minded, you really can't force something to happen, right? You can't force it to happen. Sometimes they have their process, they have their strict rules and regulations. We get it, right? But Jesse tried. Jesse actually went down in person and tried. So just to fast forward more so, we had a title commitment. Everything was good. We were supposed to close within the following 2 weeks. Everything was okay. And then they actually reached out to us, or I forgot if they reached out to us or reached out to the agent. And they stated that, they needed information from the original seller. So we were trying to gather that information, and we couldn't necessarily find it. and to find out the seller actually passed away 2 weeks after we closed on the property.
So we had owned this for several months. We put it on the market, and then that's when we found out that the seller had actually passed several months prior.
Yes. And they needed they needed some kind of, written document or some kind of autograph from the seller approving, what we were trying to implement and all that good stuff. Although we had the documentation from the notary. But the thing is, guys, the notary lost her documents, her supporting documents to support our documents. And it was
guys,
just
I know you're on the edge of your seat right now. This is like straight out of a Tom Cruise movie. This is like Mission Impossible 10 right now. Okay.
So it got to a point where, we're all like, okay, we're trying to find the seller, and we literally went online to find out he did pass away. He unfortunately did pass away. Granted, he was going through a tough time. We had the wholesaler who did a lot for the seller, a lot. Like, a lot of people understand, like, people that are in this situation, wholesalers won't do what she done for him. Like, she went to go get him groceries, she helped him move. There's a lot of different things that, more so a lot of people would not have done. And, unfortunately, he did pass away, and then we had to put that listing on hold. Now, there's only so much time a buyer can wait for everything to go on. The buyer probably just wants to close on the property and get things moving, but the buyer, if I'm not mistaken, he was purchasing a VA loan, right? He's purchasing it from a VA loan.
Yes.
He was purchased from him and his girlfriend or wife was purchased from a VA loan, wanted to use that to get into this specific property. And they waited patiently for about a month and a half, if not 2 months. But they had to find a new home. And we totally get it. So we did lose that buyer. So during that time, everything was going on. The title company specifically said they could not move forward. They wanted to cancel the transaction. They cannot move forward. So we moved it to a secondary title company, and literally same process. They didn't feel comfortable. They did not feel comfortable. Third title company, they didn't want to touch it. They did not want to touch it due to the fact there was a lot of risk. Now, granted, look on public record. You see Jesse and I name on the you see all that information. We own the property. We literally own the property. However, the title company needs proof that all this stuff was completed or initiated. Now, we sent over all the documentations we had, but the notary lost their documents. Guys, just keep that in mind. The notary do not have any supporting documents. So it looks like a scam. It really looks like a scam. Like, okay, these guys bought this property. There's no kind of real evidence to support this. The notary, what's the odds the notary really gets robbed, right? Losing her books. Looks all this other stuff. Like, we got a dead seller. So it's a lot of things that I see from their perception on things. Things just doesn't look right. So we're not going to touch it. If it got to a point, and those who know, when you buy subject to properties, you got to continue to pay the mortgage, right? You got to pay the mortgage. The mortgage has to be paid on time. So as we're making payments on time, all these things are happening. Then 1 month, Jesse and I went to go make a payment, and we were locked out. We could not make a payment. I'm like, okay, maybe there's a glitch. Let's try again tomorrow. The benefit of the doubt. And then to find out, we tried to do it again. And then it had this little, alert. Please give us a call, the friendly alert. Please give us a call about your account, And during this duration, I did try to give them a call. And, they asked, I'm not gonna say the seller's name. They asked for I'm gonna say John Doe. They asked for John Doe, and that's I'm actually his asset manager, and blah 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 blah. And then they wanted to know more information about where his whereabouts was, and more so at that specific time, we really didn't know. Transparently, Jesse and I was out of the loop. We had no idea. We were just trying to literally, make sure the mortgage is paid on time. No ifs and buts about it. And during this, the lady mentioned that we could still make payments if we call it in, but still want to know the whereabouts of the seller. And during this time, a couple of days later, I get a message from Jesse. Maybe Jesse could pick this up. He actually drove by the property just to check on it and see how things were going. And we received a letter. And what did that letter say, Jesse?
Basically, you know, they Wells Fargo went and took ownership of the property.
Yep.
So they went and changed the locks on this thing, like everything. Like it was crazy. And so we ended up we came back and I made some phone calls, got a locksmith out there, had to prove to them that we owned the property.
Yep.
And so they got the locks changed. But it was great because when Wells Fargo secured the property, they actually cleaned it up. Like they mowed the yard. They actually kind of did.
They did a hell of a job.
Well, I appreciate that, but they didn't do their own due diligence. They didn't you know, they didn't take the time to verify, you know, that the seller who had the mortgage under them actually owned the property, which to no fault of their own, I totally understand. I mean, most people don't, right? Most people think that the debt and that the deed are one and the same, and they don't understand that they're separate things, that the debt can stay in place and the deed can switch hands 500 million different times. Yep. Now, here's what's really interesting, guys, that I want to share with you. Now, check this out, because I don't know too many people, Chris, who can say what I'm about to say. Maybe Pace, but I don't know off the top of my head. I would assume he can, but off the top of my head, I don't know that I've ever heard him mention this. But what's interesting is around this time, the bank ended up finding out that the seller was deceased.
Yep.
So when I changed the locks, naturally they had a representative come back to the house to finish doing what they were doing. Notice that the locks again were changed. Don't know what happened after that, but at some point they had to have looked at public records to see what was going on and how somebody else secured the house after they had secured it themselves. And it came about, they found out that, you know, the individual who was on the mortgage was not the owner of the property. And so they ended up trying to get a hold of us. But here's what's interesting, guys, that I want to lay out. They found out, the bank, Wells Fargo found out that the debt was in somebody else's name and the deed was in somebody else's name. They did not match. And here's the real kicker of this. They did not care. Me and Chris were sitting here expecting, like, all right, we're going to get the loan call due, and this is going to be another great chapter in our book. And we're going to, you know, that's just another obstacle, right? In this whole chain of events that's going on here. But Wells Fargo didn't care.
They didn't care one bit.
They were like, guys, you guys have been paying the mortgage for the last 8 months. Just pay the mortgage. We don't care. Very interesting. So throughout this entire time, we're like, all right, cool. Now, at this time, we're thinking like, okay, we're in the clear. Let's get this thing back on the market. We ended up hiring another realtor, and everything was going well. We get this thing back under contract again. And of course, there's other things that come up with the inspection report that are different from the inspection that we did, you know, 3 or 4 months prior. But we're going through the trenches. We're fixing more things. I'm trying to remember. There's so much that happened with this event, Chris. I'm trying to even remember just the sequence of events that happened here. So there's other things that came up with the deck, with the roof, the sump pump underneath. There was just a lot of things that came up, you know, naturally that come up in inspection reports. So we're kind of going through the trenches. And then here's what's really interesting, Chris. We get a phone call from a private investigator.
No,
out of the blue.
Oh my God.
What is going on here? Why is there a private investigator trying to contact us? I'm telling you guys, just every little thing that happened throughout this one process. We're sitting here like, oh my gosh, like there's no way the seller passes. That's gotta be it. Nope, it's not. The title companies won't touch this. Like, man, this has gotta be it. We tried reaching out to help. We tried reaching out and getting help from people that are well above us. And dude, we couldn't get the help that we were anticipating. So anyway, this one deal, man, I feel like we've earned like 20 years worth of experience, just everything that's gone in through this one deal, man. But we ended up, a private investigator called us.
Yeah.
And he was a representative of the, I guess, man, there's more context. Hopefully I'm not confusing everybody. So you have the seller. The seller was once married. To my knowledge, his wife had passed away like 3 years prior, I think.
Correct. That is correct.
And was part owner of the property, right? Was she on the property as well?
Yeah, we had to provide a survivalship document.
Okay. So she was on the property as well. Well, when her and the seller went to initially purchase that property, their credit wasn't good enough.
Yep.
So they went and signed with her father-in-law. Her father-in-law was also on the mortgage. We didn't know that.
We had no idea. No idea.
So I get a phone call from this private investigator, and this private investigator is a representative of the seller's father-in-law. Because Wells Fargo had hit him up because we're going through all these different things with the Wells Fargo and the ownership and changing the locks on the house and all these things. So they're trying to figure out what's going on naturally. Yeah. And so they end up reaching out to the father-in-law of the seller. And he's like, what? I was under the impression the seller told me he sold this house like 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. So he didn't even know this thing was still under him. He thought 3 or 4 years ago, this property was gone. But Wells Fargo had ended up getting a hold of him. And so now you can imagine me and Chris are like, dude, what is going on? Why is this private investigator calling us? And Chris, is there anything you want to add up to this point or anything that I missed?
No, I think you hit the nail right in the head, man. The private investigator definitely was a big obstacle in the place because, imagine just a private investigator call. It could be anything in this world. And so Jesse and I were a little nervous, like, okay, what's going on now? But lawyers got involved, not on our side, but on their side, the representative of Wells Fargo and actually the heir. So that was pretty neat to actually go through that specific experience, more or less. And
with your butt puckered. it was pretty neat with a little bit of pucker there. You're like, oh man, what is this going to look like, man? This is interesting.
So, yeah, no, absolutely. And more so, I do want to say, because we had a couple lenders and liens on the property that we had to take care of. So we're very thankful. The lenders that we had were patient. They understood. They were riding this wave with us of all these different obstacles. No one knew that the seller was going to die, right? Let's be transparent. The seller didn't die. Transaction would have been done and over with within a month and a half max. And so we're very thankful for the parties that were involved. It's definitely trust me, Jesse and I can't thank you guys enough. We appreciate you more than you guys even know. And the fact of, especially as far as the lending aspect, that could be difficult, right? Because, when is your money going to be returned? What does that look like? And again, guys, this was supposed to be an easy, quick 6-figure deal for Jesse and I.
Dude, 60 to 90 days, 6-figure deal, guys.
Easy.
So the numbers made sense. The intention going into this made sense. Everything was on the timeline. Everything was supposed to happen accordingly. Everything was very meticulous.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On the steps going into this and coming out of it. And dude, as you guys can see, it's just like one thing after another. Multiple contractors, multiple agents, private investigators, title companies on just one deal. Guys, we're supposed to be out of this thing in 90 days max. And here we are 13, 14 months later.
Crazy. How did you? Seth has a good question. If you want to put that up there. How did you handle the relationship building during the process to keep those straight? So I'm assuming you're talking about the lenders and or all parties involved. One thing that with Jesse and I specifically done is more so we made sure we communicated with them. We ensure
That's
that
the big thing.
we let them know exactly what's going on. Even when we thought there was light in the tunnel, the tunnel's longer than we thought. It's just the fact that we said always communicated and let them know exactly, hey, this is what's going on. And we were just very black and white with them. Where there was no gray areas. We just let them know exactly what's going on. We didn't want to be around the bush and give them the sob story. No, like, hey, this is what's going on. The seller died. We have to do this. It may take another 60 to 90 days. So it's a lot of different things. To answer your question, stuff, communication is huge. It is huge. Just let them know.
We did end up, putting contingencies in place as well to make sure, should this take longer than 60 to 90 days, this is what's going to happen in that event, to make sure that you're still getting a return on your money, that you're still secure, and that we do take care of those individuals that are willing to lend us their money and to trust us and to build and solidify those relationships. It's not transactional.
Absolutely.
So that was a very great question.
Absolutely. Oh,
100%.
I think we both. Yeah.
No, you're good, dude.
We definitely got to manage those expectations up front, and especially when doing fix and flip, guys. You got to prepare for the worst. You have to. You got to be conservative, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and that's one thing that Jesse and I we learned a lot. We learned a lot through this specific one. Now, granted, no one expected a seller to die, right? It just I hate to say this like this, but everything does happen for a reason. It was a reason Jesse and I had to go through this, obstacles. It was more than we expected or wanted, but we went through a ton of obstacles, which it prepared us for the future, and more so to give not just content. I would say I was more so let you guys know what not to do and what to look out for, because we don't want no one to go through what we went through. It's not an easy situation to go through, right? And for a lot of people, I stress this, they would have gave up, and some have given up during that process. No offense,
100%. People that we were in on this with, definitely they walked out.
Yep.
Went through a lot of obstacles on this one for sure.
Facebook user, gotta say this again. Please grant StreamYard access so we can know who we're speaking to. We just want to make your name visible. So this is a great statement right here. Building relationships is a huge part of your success. 1,000%. Relationships, Jesse and I value our relationships, and we don't take them for granted.
That's the only reason why we were able to get through this.
Yep.
So we went from, and I know, guys, I know we're hammering down on some of these specifics and the events that led up to this, but literally, like, Chris and I could write a book. Like, there's details within each of these incidences and things that came up that we're not like, just for the sake of time and things like that we're just kind of breathing over. We're just kind of wanting to get you guys the meat and potatoes as to one of the big things that Chris and I have been going through over the course of the last year, and just every little thing, man. And it just goes again. And it's so funny. And it's ironic that this is what our podcast name is, House of Cards. Because you never know what hand you're going to get dealt, man.
Yep.
But the intent for everybody, again, is to come in here, to be intentional, to get into the comments. Let us know what you guys need. Let us know what you're going through, because like you guys are all saying, it's 100% relationship. And the only reason that we were able to get through this, and guys, not only did we get everybody taken care of and get out from underneath this property before Wells Fargo was able to do anything else with it, dude. And not to mention, guys, when we took this over, like I said, there are details and things that just for the sake of time that we left out, but we could write a book on this, and it would be very, very educational, I think. But even there was an HOA. There was an HOA and everything that was involved on top of the, on top of this as well. And so they were trying to foreclose on this thing too. Yep. And so, going into these projects, man, you just got to be prepared for the unforeseen circumstances, I guess. It definitely gives you a lot better insight. It makes you a better investor. You start to see things from a very different perspective, but you have to, I think there's a lot of people, like, I don't want people not going, not being willing to go through the trenches or anything like that simply because they don't know. Like, you have to go. These are things you can't just read about in a book and then be like, oh, now I know. Like, even Chris and I could write a book and it would be very informative, and it would give you guys, hopefully, just kind of like how we're describing some of these obstacles here that we've gone through. And it gives you guys, some context, but you have to go through the trenches yourselves to be able to really learn and apply some of those lessons on a much higher level and on a more intentional level as well.
100%.
So there's no reason to not be diving into these things. We want everybody in here to be taking action. But again, like you guys are all saying, it's all about community and it's all about relationships. And that's the entire point of this podcast. We want you guys to treat it as if you're going into a boardroom with other real estate professionals. Don't come in here and, metaphorically speaking, put yourself on mute and turn your camera off. I know you guys, I'm being facetious here, but this principle applies whether jumping into a podcast, jumping into a Zoom, whatever. Get in there and be intentional. What is it that you guys are looking for? What is it that you need in your business? Because things like this happen all the freaking time. All the time.
All the time. And Jesse James, I know that's probably I want to say
Big
Derek.
D.
Yeah, it's probably Derek. But yeah, those trenches are okay. I hate to say it now, but I'm okay being in those trenches. Especially when I got my business partner, and I know we already been through what we've been through. There's nothing can stop us. Let's be transparent. Like with all the obstacles we went through on one asset alone, and all the different things that, as far as this month, as Jesse stated in the beginning of the podcast, this episode specifically, this month is going to be a killer month. Killer month, and
this will be our best month we've ever had, man.
Oh yeah,
and
1,000%.
a large part of it is the mindset and the confidence from going. And a lot of it probably had to do with some of the things we went through just on this one deal specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because every single time, like Chris said, like, we've got a set closing date. So you're telling your lenders, you're telling everybody else that you're working with, hey, this is the set date. And then something happens, an inspection happens or whatever, it gets bumped. And then the buyers want to change lenders because they want to try to get a different rate. So then it gets bumped again. And it gets bumped again. And then something comes up with the inspection. Something else needs to be replaced. The chimney needs to be looked at. Whatever. Gets bumped again. And then the title company's like, no, we're not going to touch this. Gets bumped again and again and again. So you can imagine it was just an emotional roller coaster, man. But the confidence and the things that happen, the insight to the clarity that you get from going through things like this, man, you come out of it on the other side and you're not even the same person. What you truly, I really understand this. And I know, Chris, you and I have been talking about this for over a year now, but it's one of my most favorite sayings. And when I share it with somebody, usually I'll scroll through Facebook or I'll jump into Sub2 or something like that, and somebody else shares it. And I love that. And I'm going to share this one more thing with you guys again. And I share it all the time. It's literally my favorite thing. But this is a prime example of what I'm about to share with you and really the impact that holds. And it's something that Pace shared with Chris and I when we were at the mastermind last year. And he said, it's not who you think you are that's holding you back. Okay, hindsight, when Chris and I wanted to go do all these things and get involved with all these different projects and build all these relationships, we did. But it's not who you think you are that's holding you back. It's who you think you are not. And so when you go through something like this, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I solved so many problems. I helped so many people out. I accomplished X, Y, and Z just through this one deal alone, let alone everything else that we've got going on. When you have that proof of concept, when you have the relationships in place, when you have the confidence, man, all those things are just little things that snowball. Wanting to be 1% better every single day snowballs and compounds into this big thing where you're like, dude, we're about to have our biggest month ever. You know what I like to think, Chris?
What's that?
I like to think, you and I are both religious. God is all knowing. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a purpose. There's intention between, life happens for us, not to us. I understand that so much more intimately now. But in my mind, Chris, I want to be so busy, bro. And mind you, I thoroughly believe that God is all knowing. He knows exactly what's going to happen. He knows who the people are that we are capable of becoming. He already knows all that. But in my mind, Chris, I want you and I to be so effing busy that even God's looking at us and he's like, holy torpedo, Batman. Did not see Chris and Jesse doing this. And that's what I feel like, that's kind of the lens that I see things through now, sometimes. And all this just kind of accumulates into just things that I never thought or imagined that I thought I would be involved in, man. So if you get 1% better every day, that's 37 times by 1 year out. 100%. 100%. There's something called the rule of 100. And that rule of 100 states that if you spend 100 hours dedicated towards one thing, and if you break that 100 hours over the course of a year, that's 18 minutes a day. So if you can spend 18 minutes a day consistently doing something, just focused on one thing and building that one skill, you will be better than 95% of the world at that one freaking thing. And that's something that I think a lot of people really not necessarily undervalue, but it's not, they don't understand truly what that means and how much, if you could just put blinders on, you could focus on one thing and get super, super intentional, put your nose to the grindstone, get the hell off of Facebook, stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. That's one of the biggest obstacles, I think, Chris, is that people compare themselves to what everybody else is doing. And I understand it because we were all raised in a way, when you think about whether you're in elementary school, whether you're in middle school, high school, college, or whatever, you have all these state and national averages. Do you guys realize that all these state and national averages were put together by just an average student? And that's what you're graded against? That's what you're tested against? Is your peer, and then you're determined whether or not you are successful or not based on what this guy over here is doing. So naturally, a lot of people have just the hardest time going from a W-2 mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, because as soon as they make that jump, they look over what the other guy next to him is doing, because that's what they were taught to think their entire life. That's how you measure success. Wrong. That's not at all how you measure success. The only person you're in competition with is yourself. And if you can 100%. Get the hell off of Facebook, if you can stop worrying about what everybody else is doing, stop jumping into Zooms that don't serve you, stop jumping in and wasting time on relationships and people that aren't getting you to where you're trying to go. You got to get very, very intentional. You got to get very, very niche. I'm a firm believer, and I know Chris is as well, that whether you are 6 months old or 100 million years old, there's something that you can learn from everybody, which is great. You could literally stand on Times Square in New York and just sit there and talk to everybody. You're going to learn something from everybody. But is that the best and highest use of your time? And that's the equivalent to what I see how a lot of people run their businesses, is they think because they're busy that they're being, what's the word I'm looking for? Because they think that they're being busy, that they are being productive. And that's not the case. You can jump on a Zoom with 100 people, and if the intent is just to sit there and network and BS with people, what a waste of freaking time. That is not being intentional. A lot of ways that people run their business is the equivalent of you just standing on Times Square and just having conversations with anybody that walks by you. There's no structure to that. There's no intention to that. There's no detail to that. And so you got to get really, really niche. You got to put the blinders on. You got to put your nose to the grindstone and just focus on one thing, man. Become so good at that one thing, because that's when you start making big bucks. The level of skill that you bring to the marketplace, that's what's going to determine the amount of money that you make. And if you're busy doing everything and you're not being intentional on one thing, then you're wasting a lot of time. Allison says, I've pushed hard, been connecting and taken action. Now I'm lucky enough to be a part of a local team. Allison, I'm proud of you. I am super proud of you. This has been awesome to get to know you. You've been doing some really amazing things. And you've got kids. I mean, that's I think that in and of itself, just a parent pursuing their dream with their kids, I think is the coolest thing. And you've been just such an amazing example of that. And someone like Chris and myself, who are parents as well, that speaks volumes. I know so many people, man, who just don't even take the time. I think I made a reel about it or something yesterday or the day before, but I know a lot of people that are like, well, I've got one kid. I don't have the time. It's his nap time right now and he's not going down. I can't afford to get on this meeting. I can't afford to do, whatever. So what is it ultimately that you're trying to do? What does that future self look at you or look like? There's a great exercise I like to share with people. When you look at where you're on your business, you look at the relationships that you have right now. Look at the things that you're doing in your business. And then also look at things from a monetary standpoint as well, because the entire point is freedom. It's not money. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with freedom. But money is the scorekeeper. Money lets you know how well you're doing. So when you look at things from a monetary perspective as well, not only your relationships and your personal development, but when you look at things like the car that you drive, the quality of life that you live, the house that you live in, the money in your account, those are great indicators of what the score is. And you become the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So what are the things that you're tolerating in your life? What does your accountability level look like? And then compare that to somebody that you see yourself being in 3 years or even 5 years. Make a list. This is something that we do in our coaching program because it's so stinking powerful to give some perspective and to give some clarity on the things that you're lacking in your life right now and the person that you're trying to become. Go do an exercise and figure out in 3 years from now, what is the future version of Allison Dawson doing? And get very, very specific with it. Get very specific with it. And write down some of those small things. What does your character look like? What does your integrity look like? What does your honesty look like? What is your level of excellence? What does that look like? The things that you're tolerating. Are you coming home and sleeping 8 hours a day? How many people are you serving? How many people have you talked to in the last 90 days? All those things add up and they become a culmination of the average of what your life looks like right now. So if you're not where you are, then look at the things that you're tolerating in your life. Look at your accountability. Look at the excuses that you give yourself every day as to why you can or can't do something. Alexander, I'm so excited. I'm going to be accepting my first client to manage
Amazing.
STR, MTR, building a business with awesome support. Dude.
Congratulations on that.
I need a bell, dude. I really need a bell or something. Can you hear this at all?
We can hear it.
You can hear it?
Yes, sir.
For real?
Yes.
Did it play intro music?
It played a little bit, then you stopped it.
Oh, well, I can't hear it on my end. So that's cool. That's cool. I can't hear it on my end, so that's my equivalent to me ringing the bell. Dude, Alex, that's awesome, man. That's phenomenal. Angel says, this is why I love being in the same room with you guys. I'm behind the scenes person. I don't have a social media mindset. Instead of reaching to a group of 1,000, hoping to connect with people, I want to reach out to 50 privately and make a lasting connection with 10. Maybe not for everyone, but works for me. I think that's the best way to do it.
Wow.
I think that's the best way to do it. I think that probably about sums up the way, Chris and I have done it.
Yeah. Wow.
The good news is there's no right or wrong way to go about this. It's just whatever works for you, but consistency, mindset, iterations, habits, being willing to go through the trenches to overcome these things. But, the only way that you overcome a lot of these things and you continue skyrocketing your growth is to make sure you're just with the right people, that you're building relationships. I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways from today's episode. Would you agree, Chris? Just everything you can't foresee anything that's going to happen in any type of real estate deal. I mean, this one is one for the books, man. And I really think that we should write a book or something like that so we can get more granular into a lot of the things that came up, man. But yeah, what would you say? What's probably one or two of the biggest takeaways from just this entire experience?
Relationships is key. I believe you mentioned it earlier that if it wasn't for the relationships, we probably wouldn't got through this. And Jesse and I, we don't take that for granted. We think we cherish every relationship we have. We truly want to see success from anyone. We're not in a competition with anyone. We don't see ourselves in a competition. We truly want to see the success for everyone that's around us. And I think, Allison, you kind of hit the nail right on the head right there, because a lot of investors, especially newer investors, they think about the money first, and it becomes too greedy. It may work for them for a little bit, but they will wiggle themselves out, wondering why they don't got the traction they really looking for. There's a lot of investors and buyers out there who knows their numbers. They know exactly what they're looking for. If you're trying to sell them on greed, it won't get you nowhere. So, Jesse, I think more so the relationships, the communication, the whole entire process itself. It was just, I would not change one thing about it, man. I actually loved everything about it. It got to a point at the beginning, I was like nervous about it, and also like towards a few months in, I'm like, man, God has a plan. He's doing this for a reason. Let's just go through the, I wouldn't say the motions, but just go with the flow and see how we get through these obstacles together and see how we get across this finish line. And we did it. We did
100%.
it. Now,
it's even funny, dude. Even partway through this process, you and I were having conversations, and we were like, dude, this is kind of awesome, man. Like we're getting more experience than anybody else. I don't know anybody else has gone through something like this.
Yeah.
And we were looking forward to being able to overcome a lot of these obstacles. So it's funny how the perception of it kind of changed. Instead of being reactive, we were like, dude, this is kind of awesome, man. It sucks, but it's another chapter in our book that we get to include. So
oh yeah. Well, we appreciate everyone. We appreciate everyone that was involved. Appreciate everyone that's listening to us right now. And again, I know we got just a few more minutes left, guys. Don't forget to always. I pray every night, right? I'm just gonna say this and get a little vulnerable if you guys don't mind, religious, but I pray every night, right? And one thing I do ensure, I pray for positivity. I don't like negativity. I really don't. Right? Are you going to not always, are you going to encounter that sometimes? Yes. It's how you adapt to those kind of situations that really make you a better person. And one thing I can leave you with is just more so, just stay positive. Everything will work itself out. There's probably people on here going through a lot of different things that we don't know about, which that is okay. You need to go through something to get to your final destination. And a lot of people don't realize, they talk, why me, why this, or why that, or why I shouldn't be experiencing that. Well, this person didn't go for that. This person just made $180,000 yesterday. Why I can't do that? Because it's not your time. And people get upset when you're very blunt with them. You can't get upset. You got to just listen sometimes and understand it really is not your time. Like, for instance, it wasn't for Jesse and I. It wasn't our time for Jesse and I to close on that property at that specific time. We thought mentally at the time, perfect. We got a buyer. We're going to close. This is going to happen. God had a different plan, and it's okay, because initially he got us to the finish line. We went through all these obstacles. We met amazing individuals who are doing 6, 7, 8, figure months, and it's phenomenal, right? Because initially we met a lot of new people, built a lot of different relationships, and we know what not to do next time. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. They say, oh, we went through hell, we went through this. You probably did. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. As Jesse stated, 14 to 15 months of one property on a flip. One property. Mind you, we got other things going on. Other businesses to run. Other opportunities still coming in. People leaving. People coming in. It's just a lot of different things that you have to understand. You're going to have to go through these pains to be successful. You're going to have to, because if you don't want to feel nervous, if you don't want to get uncomfortable, you can't be around Jesse and I. I'm just being honest. You can't. And Jesse and I won't allow that, because we want people who want to grow and be a better person. If you want to make $20,000 a month, let's do it. Don't say you can't, because it's never going to happen. And Jesse, he stated it earlier, as far as the quote, you got to listen to that. You really got to listen to that. But that's my final thoughts. Sorry, Jesse, I want to.
Oh, dude, you're good, man. Keep going, bro. No, that was fantastic. I totally agree, man. Just learning how to build relationships will literally make or break your entire business. I mean, going through those trenches, Chris, and learning how to be more effective leaders, to be more effective communicators, to serve at a higher level, to lead with value at a higher level. I mean, we led with value in a lot of ways with a lot of people on this thing, man. And it solidified those relationships for us to be able to have months like this.
Absolutely.
And for us, again, this is one of those things where we're not going to look back and be like, dude, Chris, remember like in 2023, dude, that was a good time, dude. Those are good old days. Like, we get to be present and in the now and acknowledge that, man, this is awesome. I'm just so filled with gratitude for the people that we get the opportunity to meet and to serve, and to grow with and to work alongside. And again, just grateful for you, baby. I appreciate you, man. This is awesome. And this is just the beginning. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this journey with you, brother.
Appreciate that. And likewise. And Iffy, I'm glad to see you in here. I just got to say, I'm very glad to see you. Iffy's killing it, guys. I think she probably acquired over 300, 400 doors in the last 2 months. She's doing it like it's phenomenal what Iffy's doing. And she's a great leader in the community. She's in several communities, actually. And guys, if you're not reaching out to Iffy for just more so to understand exactly what her process or business is, you can't go wrong. She's doing everything right. So she's in the right spaces. She's communicating with the right people. She's building the right relationships. So if I wanted to say, you're amazing soul, thank you for all you do. And Jesse and I appreciate you as well. Guys, again, we're a little bit over time. We appreciate everyone being here. And don't forget to subscribe. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio. We on iTunes, Amazon Music. We're everywhere. And I want to say thank you again on this journey. Jesse and I might do a little book. We might do a book.
We should, man. Yeah.
Throw it out there.
Anybody's a publisher or know somebody who is a publisher, man, send them over. We'll pay you for the connection.
But we appreciate you guys. Until next time, see ya.
Thanks for listening to the House of Cards podcast with Chris James and Jesse Stanton. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and have learned something new about real estate investing. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more tips and tricks. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Until next time.